did that.
The summer. I guess they started the summer schedule.
No, it's because they got an hour and a half behind. I took the noon ferry and got to Horseshoe Bay at 1:25. So they got that far behind. Just start.
I see.
So they had to cancel one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're all here, either virtually or in person, so it's nice to see everyone again. We will get started with the open meeting of the Mayor's Task Force on Infrastructure for Thursday, May 16th, 2024. Call this meeting to order at 3:04 p.m. And the first item that I'll look to the clerk for is the introduction of any late items.
We have a supporting material for item 4.1. It's a list of capital projects, the progression status, estimated completion.
Great, thank you. With that, I'll look for a motion that the Mayor's Task Force on Infrastructure approve the agenda and late items for the May 16th, 2024 meeting. Moved by Councillor Wake, seconded by Councillor Saunders. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
That carries unanimously. Moving on to the adoption of the minutes. Can I have a motion that the minutes of the MTFI meeting held April 4th, 2024 be adopted?
I'll move that. Well, I had a question for Steph. There was a comment in there about electric heat, something about electric heat. And I might have been the one that referred to that, but what I was maybe talking about was electric service, the servicing. Not necessarily heat.
Right.
I don't have the minutes in front of me, but there was a reference about the notes about the new public works having electric heat, I think. But it was a question about electric that there was capacity on the electric service was what I was meaning, not electric heat.
Noted. Thank you.
Okay. So unless there's any objection, we will change the word heat in the minutes to service. With that,
electric service.
Yep. I have a motion to adopt the minutes as amended, please. Moved by Councillor Wake, seconded by Councillor, seconded by Mr. Nicholson. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that carries. We are back to this here.
No public comments today.
No public comments today. So moving along to updates. So the main focus of today's meeting, I think, as everyone knows, but just for the benefit of anybody watching or taking things on or reviewing later, much of today is going to be discussing the Cove Bay Water Treatment Plant update, both in open and closed. And then I can talk a little bit more later about sort of the trajectory of the meetings over the next couple of months and where we'd like to go with that. And with that, I will turn it over to our Chief Administrative Officer for a update on our capital projects.
Thank you, Mayor. And so I wanted to thank Patrick Graham, our Director of Engineering, for providing us with this updated list with the status and estimated completion of capital projects, which was sent out in advance of this meeting. And I believe it captures the requests of the committee members to identify so it's got the project title, and then it has a project budget, and then the budget is like identified as low or moderate or high risk in terms of where it is with the budget piece, and it defines the type of the budget, whether it's an estimate or approved budget. And then it gives a bit of a brief description on the status of each project, and then estimated completion date, again, showing like whether it's a low, medium, or high risk. And so rather than going through that in a line by line fashion, and you will also note that Patrick took some effort to look at the projects to help identify, okay, well, these are the types of projects that this committee would be interested in. And so he also looked at the threshold of $150,000 or higher. And so you'll note that some of those sort of lower cost projects have been removed from this list. And so, yeah, so rather than going through it line by line, I would suggest to the committee that if there was a particular project that anybody wanted to have a more detailed update on, that we could do it that way.
Look to the committee for any questions. Councillor Saunders.
Thanks. Just freeze it right there, if you would. I just got a question with the Blue water main. That's like a 35% difference between the estimate and the pre-tender estimate and the design, what they're saying it'll now cost. I'm curious to what went into the estimate that's a pretty significant difference. It's not like 10% or something. And follow up to that is, so now what? Because the borrow amount is approved. If we reduce scope as suggested there, how much does it get reduced? And I don't mean dollar value. I mean, like, do we cut out some people or some of the water mains? We start prioritizing which ones need it the most, or what's the process?
Yeah. So the process would be, well, first your question about the discrepancy. The budget estimate and what the borrowing was based on was a unit rate that we had from Urban Systems on dollars per meter of water main. It was estimated on that basis. When they've gone through the design and put together the detailed estimate, the number is quite a bit higher. Perhaps the unit rate needed to be higher than it was. I know there is a lot of bedrock in Blue Water, and they came up with some estimates on rock removal that would be associated with water main installations that increased the rates significantly. I'm not sure. I was a bit surprised by this myself. I'm not sure that accounts for the whole difference, and why such a significant difference when we look at the estimates we had for the Eagle Cliff water main, and then the pre-tender estimates were more or less in line with that. So it is something I need to discuss with Urban Systems a little more to try and understand why things were so different. I don't have a good answer other than that the rock did add a substantial amount. In terms of what we do now, there really isn't an option other than to reduce the scope and, like you said, prioritize what remains that really need to be done. There's a couple of water main extensions on two cul-de-sacs off of Captain's Way, Clipper Place and Forecastle, that would probably be the first that we would cut out of the scope. And that would hopefully be, what we're hoping for is that the estimate, the pre-tender estimate that DePaul provided is on the high side, and that we end up with tender prices that are significantly lower than that.
Okay.
I don't know if that's going to be the case.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
And if Mayor, if I may, just so to Patrick's point about really the option is to reduce scope and prioritize water main replacement, in large part because the duration of securing approval for additional funding is quite long. And so, but what we haven't really discussed what we would do to address that reduced scope. But we would wait to see what the actual preferred tender is when that's done, to then see just how much needs to be adjusted. And then we'll make a decision about coming back to council with, if needed, coming back to council with an option to address the remainder.
Right. Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Councillor Saunders. Over to you, Mr. Florendo. I believe you had your hand up.
Yeah, I had a quick question similar to John in terms of like did Urban provide details as to where the discrepancies were, especially in terms of unit pricing? It sounded like there was rock, but what about the pipe pricing as well? I missed the earlier part of that response.
Yeah, the pipe pricing, a lot of it was the rock, but the pipe pricing was higher too. And the way they did their schedule of quantities and prices, and which is also the format of their pre-tender estimate, they itemized everything. So they have all of the lengths of pipe and all of the fittings and all of the bends and everything's every type of fitting and bend is its own line item. And I think you end up coming up with higher numbers if you do your estimates that way than doing a unit rate that encompasses everything per meter rate for water mains. So I have some questions about their pre-tender estimate and how high it is. It didn't seem like they didn't provide a very good explanation for why it was, because I thought we were in the range of $1,000 a meter, I think, and this is quite a bit higher than that, so I don't have a good answer.
And then have they provided any suggestions from a value engineering perspective as to where they could find potential cost savings at this point, or are we just waiting now for it to go out to tender to actually get actual pricing?
Yeah, I mean, I did ask that during the tender document process before we actually went to tender. And there wasn't a lot that they were able to point to, or that I was able to point to, that was extra or could be done more efficiently. So I think at this point we're really waiting to see what the shortfall is, and we'll have to react to that.
Yeah, over to you, Mr. Nicholson.
Patrick, so this is the pre-tender. We haven't gone to tender yet, correct?
Tender is posted.
Oh, the tender is posted, but we don't know. We haven't received any pricing yet.
No, that would be at the end of May. That closes.
Okay. So this pre-tender estimate, I'm guessing the contingency's gone down, but the accuracy of the estimate's gone up. Is that safe to say?
Well, that's supposed to be how it works. Yes.
Yeah.
And, so yeah,
Right.
The contingency, there's a 10% contingency carried on this estimate.
Right. Okay. And okay. And that's included in it. That's included in the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So did it go out to tender and then the pre-tender estimate came in, or did we have the pre-tender estimate and then we put it out to tender?
No, we had the pre-tender estimate first.
Okay.
And then I guess there's always an option to tender a reduced scope of work.
And
we went with the option.
Okay. Do we know how many bidders have picked up or how many are in, what sort of interest there is?
There's some interest. We've had, I think about 10 firms have picked up the documents. We had a pre-tender meeting a couple of days ago, and there was, I believe, 6 firms that attended.
Okay.
So it
Well, that's good.
could be worse.
Yeah.
Always hoping for more, but
Yeah, and when they ask, like I don't know if it's the same with civil contractors, but usually when the generals were asked, did they ask what's your budget? Was there any talk of like that usually fishing around for what the number you're looking for is? Was there any banter about that?
there wasn't actually.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. Usually when we were asked, we always told them a bit of a lower price than than the actual price. But and would this pre-tender estimate, is that on a public is that public somewhere, anywhere? I guess this is a public forum.
This is a public forum, and that's something I want to talk about actually.
Yeah. Okay. So if any of the contractors are watching, they know what the estimate. Okay, got it.
Okay. So it sounds like the CAO wants to pick this up in close as well. I think this is a great topic and timing for our next task force meeting as well in the middle of June, given that sounds like tenders close at the end of the month, and we can revisit this topic then, as it'll have to come back to council, I think, for the award, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Councillor Saunders, followed by Mr. Florendo.
Just want to switch gears to the multi-use path. And in Patrick's summary there, I notice like it's pretty much, it looks like on budget, but the big concern is that scares me is, oh, but we might have to buy property, which would kind of destroy the budget, I would think. What's the chance that that's going to happen? I mean, is that a realistic possibility? In which case, I don't know how it happens.
Yeah, we're looking at a couple of options. So there's certainly, if we were to go with the current design, which has a section of off-road path, and then it would run along the north side of Grafton Road. Due to the steepness of the slope, the road has to be moved to the south. So there's a couple of properties that when you create your cut slope on the south side of the road, it would extend onto those properties. There's also an option to use retaining structures, retaining wall, to try and avoid that property acquisition requirement. And then it becomes a question about the trade-off of land acquisition costs versus cost to build the retaining structures. So we're just looking at that now.
All right, thanks.
Over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Mayor. Maybe one suggestion I have with regards to the process, and again, thank you, Patrick, for putting together such a detailed summary. But I think budget numbers and budget discussion should get moved to closed meetings unless the capital numbers are available already for the public. That just keeps the tender process a little bit more secure.
Right. Yeah. Great. Yeah, there's some difference there. I think the budget numbers are wide open from our previous budgeting process, but the tender pieces might not be. Okay. Any other questions on the capital project list? Seeing none, we'll move on. Any other updates on capital projects from the CAO or the director?
I can give a very brief update on the community center. So we did receive indoor wood flooring last week, and it's beginning to be installed, and millwork is beginning to be installed. And so it's that stage in the project where the spaces truly feel like they will once we achieve completion. So it's pretty exciting, like the flex room, or otherwise the small multi-purpose room, really, you can really get a feel for it in there now. And so it's really exciting. And you know, I was glad to see the roof going on. There's a pause as they deal with some the detail work in the valley on the side that we can't see from the road. But we're you know, hopeful that that continues on. And yeah, so it's that exciting phase where, you know, they poured the concrete slabs for the entrance yesterday. And so now's the time where if you want to get your handprint in there, there's the fewer opportunities to make that happen. So, but yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Okay, thank you. And moving on to the public portion of our Cove Bay Water Treatment Plant update. Over to you, Patrick.
Okay, so I did get an update, fairly brief update from Purifics yesterday and then again today. So a bit more detail. So it was a little bit discouraging that they hadn't started on anything until Tuesday of this week. They had it since the 22nd of April, so essentially 3 weeks went by without much progress. I guess the better news is that it seems like they're able to do quite a bit in a fairly short amount of time. So in the 3 days, they've dismantled taken all of the ceramics out. They've discovered the defective element in the one module. And they've rehabilitated, which is basically involves heating up, drying out, and then cleaning out the all of the holes in the tubes. They've done that and then retesting it before installing it again. They've done that for about a quarter of the elements in the second module. So I asked about the time frame for completion, and was reluctant to give me anything, and eventually said 4 weeks, which seems like at the rate they're going could be shorter than that, but I don't know what their time frame is. Are they just working on this when they have the free time? Seems like for whatever reason, they didn't get going on it for quite some time while they had it. So, that's about all I have in terms of an update where they're at this point. And hopefully we can get regular, as they progress with this thing, we can get regular updates as to how they're doing. And they didn't flag anything, or they didn't see anything that was unexpected, which is good.
Sure.
Okay. Mr. Florendo, followed by Mr.
Thanks,
Nancy.
thanks, Patrick. Other than the verbal updates, have they provided, or have we asked for any photographic information as to, like, if they find something such as the deficient or the parts that need to be replaced, just so that we have some level of paper trail as to what they're doing?
I have asked for photographs. I haven't received anything yet.
Okay. Go ahead, Don.
Oh, so question for you, Patrick. Will the unit be coming back with the ceramic filters pre-installed, or is that something that we would do when it arrives, that we, well, in conjunction with Purifics, would insert the ceramic filters at this end once the unit's back here?
No, they'll be installed at Purific's factory. And
Okay.
once they've completed all of that, they're going to be running it for a period of time to ensure that everything's working.
Okay, and then
And,
and then after they've tested it, they'll ship it back, and theoretically we don't have to pay for a heated trailer because the summer's here. And I thought the ceramic filters were kind of a bit of the Achilles heel of the design, that they are sensitive to breaking or cracking, or we're okay with. Would they send extra membrane filters along with the unit?
Going back earlier in the year, they did, and this was before we got into the whole back and forth and ended up having to send it back. They did commit to providing spares. So I will remind them of that commitment, and hopefully they honor it.
I see.
Okay. Spares.
And when we get it back, how would we know if because there's 16 of them, right? There's 2 pairs of 8. How would we know if one of them's cracked or deficient? Is that fairly easy to ascertain, or?
You would know, there's actually 36 in each, so there's 72 elements.
Oh, I see. Okay. And what's the size? What's the size of these filters? Like 3 feet long, or?
A little more than that. They're probably about 5 feet long, and
okay. So out of 70, so out of 72, we would be able to know if 1 or 2 weren't working when we get it back.
Well, you know that, and this is what we ran into with the one element that we were running, not the one that was plugged, but the other one is, you can see that, the turbidity of the filtrate is high, when it should be very low.
I see.
The filtered water. So then there's at least one that's breached, is cracked, or in some way defective. You don't know whether it's 1 or 2 or more.
I see. So it's a visual ascertainment.
Well, you have monitored turbidity.
Okay.
And then it's visual. You open up the
Okay.
And when they were here, the staff member from Purifics that was here wasn't able to confirm which of the elements was defective when they pulled them all out.
Oh yeah, that would there's 72 chances, right? So yeah, okay. I think the rest of the stuff any questions I've got would be in closed, so that's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Over to Councillor Wake, followed by Mr. Florendo.
I'm just wondering about the quality of the intake water. Like, if we're looking for turbidity, are they going to have turbidity in the water that's equivalent to what our intake water is?
No,
they're just going to use their plain water.
Yeah, not sure that they have. It wouldn't be the same water, that's for sure. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I'll have to.
I feel like we should be sending them some of our water.
Some of our water.
They probably have some of our sediment from the dewatering.
Yeah.
system already. They could just mix it up themselves.
Off the floor.
That's a good point.
Over to you, Michael.
Thanks. That's kind of similar in line to my question is like, have they provided us or can we request their testing procedure so we know what they'll be doing to test that everything is working? Because it should be a standard operating procedure that they have if they're keeping the quality management requirements. And then the other question was whether we have secured a witness for independent or at least on behalf of the municipality to see their testing and commissioning to confirm that everything works out well before they ship the equipment back to us.
We've not been able to secure that witness, and so I've followed up with WSP about their availability, and they haven't responded.
So then would it be something that we can consider just sending someone from here at our own cost as opposed to relying on WSP, and we do have some time before that actually occurs, and then requesting that Purifics give us at least 72 hours or as much notice as possible before they do the final testing so that we can have.
We can request that. Yeah, I'm not so. We can request it and see what response is, but I'll talk with Patrick internally about the possibility of and availability of sending somebody. It's a bit difficult because, as you know, we've got a pretty small team, and so it would likely either be Patrick or our water treatment plant operator, who is pretty valuable and hard to send off island, but I'll talk with Patrick about it.
Over to you, Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you. I would kind of be cautious. I know we've talked about this, Michael, but in thinking more deeply about it, I'd be kind of cautious to send somebody, particularly when they've made a big issue about how proprietary and secret sauce it all is, and you don't need to come, you don't need to see what we're doing. It might be best just to leave that as it stands, as their word says, we're going to do a factory refit, and you just need to plug and play and see what leave it up to them for the QC and see what we get when it gets here, rather than maybe sending somebody who is asked to sign off on something that I don't know if I'd be. I mean, I could sign off on a building, but I don't know if I'd want to sign off on behalf of the, it might just, I don't know, just a thought.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Don. And, but yeah, there is, I think our confidence is low that it would be plug and play at this point.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that, I guess.
We do have, or we will have a senior staff from Purifics coming to site to assist with commissioning and training. So when we start the thing up, they will have.
Will it be?
Yeah.
Patrick,
Yeah, go ahead.
will it be that same chap that was working on the Grand Isle plant? Do you think?
No, I think it will be Tony, who's their, he's Brian's partner.
Oh, I see.
He's the most familiar with the system.
Okay.
Okay. Seeing no further comments, we will move on to other business. or new business, 5.2, move to a closed meeting. Can I have someone move the recommendation, please? So moved by Councillor Wake, seconded by Councillor Saunders. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Presuming no questions for question period?
No.
All right. Next meeting has already been set, discussing asset management planning. We'll probably add Blue Water Park for that meeting as well. And looking for a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved by Councillor Saunders. Seconded by Councillor Wake. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, raise your hand, say aye.